Okay, what is my top strategy for overcoming SAT and ACT test anxiety? That's exactly what we're going to talk about in this video. My name is Kristina of Ivy Lunch Test Prep, and for the past 15 years, I have helped high schoolers all around the globe dramatically raise their SAT and ACT test scores and ultimately land spots at the colleges of their dreams. So, as I'm starting to do on my YouTube channel, I recently did a video about what test anxiety is and the type of students who are most prone to get it. And it included one of my favorite strategies for getting present and embodied to take a test. I'm going to continue that series with this video. And hopefully in the future, I will do a few more as well. Because if you're like any of my students I work with the world over, everything might be a little chaotic right now. And if you are a sophomore or a junior or a senior in high school, this is just a stressful time, right? Taking tests, figuring out like your life, your passions, where you want to go to college application essays, all of it. It can be a stressful time, but it also can be a rite of passage. And that is why I am here and why I'm so excited to share this video's trick, which is what I call my frameworks method. So, what causes test stress and who tends to get the most stressed out? So, as you may recall from my previous video, and I will link to it, that once we drill down, there are really only like two main causes of test anxiety, right? One is lack of preparation, and the other is mental chatter. Okay. And if you also recall, if you saw this previous video, there tend to be two types of students who will suffer the most from test anxiety. So the first one is the one I like very lovingly call the slacker. Okay. This one will suffer primarily from the lack of preparation that I just mentioned. And then there is also the perfectionist. And I know because I was one back in the day. And the perfectionist suffers primarily from the mental chatter. So today's test anxiety strategy, it's meant to get this lack of preparation into check, right? But I use it with both my slackers and my perfectionists when we have like an initial meeting called an Ace the Test game plan, and we start to work together to raise their SAT or ACT scores. Again, I will refer back to this sometimes if I need to get one of my, again, I mean this in the most positive way possible. If I need to get one of my slacker students to like pick up the pace or to help one of my perfectionists from stopping mentally spinning so we can like get here in the present moment and like do this thing. Okay. So let us talk about my strategy, which is called making a big picture framework for getting into college. So the idea behind this is actually pretty simple, and it just takes a few minutes of dedication to like actually do it. Basically, you are going to look at the big picture of the project or the goal you have that you are trying to accomplish, and we are going to break it into parts, and then only a few parts. And then we get to drill down into any details that may contribute to the ultimate goal. Okay. So once you do this, a couple things will happen. So one is you will realize that your like dreams, they're not this airy fairy notion. Like they can really happen, right? And you'll have these smaller actionable steps in place to actually make them happen. So if you're just now tuning in, again, my name is Kristina of Ivy Lunch Test Prep. And again, I help high schoolers all around the globe get into their dream colleges by dramatically raising their SAT and ACT test scores and write compelling and authentic college application essays. I have a quick question for you, and that is, do you see yourself as being like kind of a slacker or a perfectionist? Like, are you overwhelmed or are you like, what's the point? I want to know, write it in the comments. Let me know who I'm talking to right now. And while you're at it, just go ahead and like this video and just subscribe to my channel. And then that way, whenever I have the latest in, test taking tips, SAT or ACT testing strategies, or college application essays, you will be the first to know. So now let us make a big picture framework right now for this whole getting into college process. When we do this, you will see how this whole frameworks method works, and then you can apply it to many more things that I will tell you about later. So I see this whole getting into college process as really just like 5 things, okay? What's the first one? Well, for me, it would be identifying which schools you want to apply to in the first place, like your dream colleges, the ones that are true fit for you. Now, the second step in our framework, I would see it as, okay, now let's research them. Like, what are their actual standardized testing requirements? Do they require an ACT or an SAT test score? Will they consider them if you submit them, or are they test free? Like, do they super score? Do they do score choice? Like, what's the deal? If you don't know how to do that, you could go to collegeboard.com, you could go to collegedata.com, you could go to the school's individual websites and find out. Now, the third step, right, is okay, cool. So I know what the schools are. I know that they require a score. The next is, well, what is that like median test score that they in fact would want from you to be a strong applicant and like open the door to the admissions officers looking at the rest of your application seriously. Okay. So again, you would find median SAT and ACT score ranges for the students who got in. That might look like a 25th to 75th percentile range, or it could just be called median scores. And you can find that on collegedata.com or collegeboard.com. The fourth step. So what are your diagnostic scores right now on the SAT or ACT? Like, how far away are you from this median score range? Okay, that you just learned about in step 3. And then the fifth thing is, that's cool. What specific pieces of content in grammar and math, or specific strategies for like reading, science, or grammar and math, would you need to learn to bridge the gap from where you are now to what you need to get to open the door to your dream schools? So actually, this whole complicated test prep to get into college, we just broke it down into 5 steps. Okay. And granted, that fifth one, I understand it's nuanced. You might need a pro, like literally like me, in order to do that one. But a lot of them you could do yourself. Okay. So let's talk. Why does this strategy help slackers beat test anxiety? So for my slacker students, again, I mean that with the utmost of love and kindness and respect. Okay. You often don't have the motivation to even begin your SAT or ACT test prep until me going through a process like this, like in the Ace the Test game plan that I do with my private students, like whips you into shape, often with astounding results. So remember, if you are this type of student, right, this student will have test anxiety simply because they don't see the significance of why he needs to like do his trigonometry homework. So then he doesn't do the homework. Then surprise, surprise, he doesn't see the improvement, gets a crappy score on his test at school, doesn't answer those questions correctly on the ACT's math section. However, if we can start with the dream, okay? And in this case, it's your dream college. And then we can get you to like see yourselves there as a concrete possibility. And then we can connect the dots. So you see how your dream of going to that college directly relates to a very finite list of topics and strategies that you need to learn on the SAT or ACT. Get ready. If you're a parent, you might see your slacker high schooler like lock themselves in the room and study for the first time ever. I am not joking. Okay. So if this is you, right, the slacker does not want to expend time or energy if they don't see the point. So let's start with the point. Does that make sense? And bonus points if you or if I or yourself can help this person connect the dots from their dream school to the precise test content and strategy topics themselves. But again, I understand that's nuanced. Sometimes you need a pro like me to do that part. So now let's talk about how this strategy helps the perfectionists beat test anxiety. Okay, so for the perfectionist out there, I know I'm talking to you, right? Who only sees the significance and then scares herself with catastrophic thinking, then creating a big picture framework, kind of like what we just did for college standardized testing, can be a lifesaver for 2 reasons. So number 1, you'll see you don't need to be perfect, right? You only need to improve X points to get a score of Y. That literally means that you either don't need to know everything, or you can learn everything, but then it's okay to make some mistakes, right? And you'll realize that some mistakes will be okay. And number 2, you will see that in fact, it is a finite list, a finite number of topics and strategies that you would need to learn and practice in order to accomplish your goal, right? You don't need to mentally spin about like double angle trig identities when those aren't tested on either test. You know what I mean? And if they were, those might not be the low hanging fruit that you need to pick to get the most points in the least amount of time. So, other things that you can make a big picture framework for, okay, that I have used to help many of my past students increase their test prep motivation and decrease their stress. You can make a framework for any of these. You could do for the SAT as a whole or the ACT as a whole. You can do a framework for each section within the ACT or within the SAT. So including a list of like everything that could be tested within it. Hint, it's a finite list. And if you happen to know all the topics, then there's nothing else to learn. It's just about applying knowledge and figuring out when you need to apply what. Okay. You could do a framework for your junior year of high school, as in like planning when you're going to take the SAT or ACT, when you have finals and AP exams, when you have your tournaments or your play practice or your big orchestra concert, or like when you have spring break or midwinter recess or whatnot. Okay. That might be a framework you do. You could have a framework for the entire college process, like grades, which classes do I want to take, the standardized testing, college essays, campus and virtual visits, letters of rec, all of those things. That could be another thing you do a framework for. Cool. So basically, once you can get your slacker or your perfectionist, or if that is you, if you are the slacker or you are the perfectionist, to understand the big picture of your dreams and then break them down into manageable chunks, it not only lights a fire under the slacker's behind, but it eases a lot of the perfectionist's overwhelm and anxiety. So if you're stuck creating a framework for any of these things, or you need a third neutral expert perspective, right, to weigh in, that's precisely where I can help. So one thing you can do, you can book an Ace the Test game plan with me so I can do the hard work of literally breaking down the whole standardized testing process to get into your dream school for you and break down junior year. We'll know what test you're going to take. We'll know what scores you need to get for your dream schools. We'll know exactly what content and strategies for you to learn to gain the most amount of points in the least amount of time. Or if like private tutoring is like not in your study style or in your budget, then I have another option for you. So I have a really cool online video and PDF course, and it's called Unlock SAT and ACT Testing Confidence. So this is a totally digital, totally self-directed video class that will help you slay the dragon of test anxiety. So I walk you through over a dozen tricks and strategies for keeping calm and testing on. So if you liked the hack today in today's video, then please check it out in the link below.